Wayne, are you on there?
Wayne is on, but pointing his camera at the ceiling fan.
Okay. Nice ceiling fan, Wayne.
Yeah.
There he is.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
That's the part of your head. There he is.
Happy.
Happy.
And we've got somebody named Lee, L-I, on here, but I'm not sure who that
There's
is.
Nancy. Hi, Nancy.
Hello.
Okay. Lee, are you there? I don't know who that is.
They said, Wayne there. Name's on, polishing the ceiling fan.
Nancy, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Got a big smile on her face.
Yeah, Jim's coming in. Hey, Jim. I don't know if he can hear us. Oh, he's connecting. There he is. Hey, Jim.
Hello.
Oh. But there's Wayne. Wayne.
Here I am.
You almost got your face in there, dude. Oh, there's Herman. Hey, Herman.
Herman, you are muted. I've got everybody can unmute themselves, and we'll probably just play it loose here for muting this meeting.
Okay.
Hey, Herman, what'd you cook tonight?
Huh?
What did you cook tonight?
Oh, leftovers.
Leftover. Okay.
Yeah.
Leftovers are always good.
Easy.
Oh yeah.
Easy peasy.
Hey,
Herman.
Al, haven't seen you in a while. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I hope you are.
Amen to that.
I'm usually here. I'm just over there, just outside of the camera's view.
Ah,
Hiding.
okay.
He's usually hiding.
Incognito.
Yes. Yes. What are the comedians gonna do?
I'm sorry?
What are the comedians gonna do when he's gone?
Can you turn that down, huh?
Oh, they got enough material for years.
Oh yeah,
And he's gonna be the gift that keeps on giving. You know that.
right.
Yeah,
Fellowship on it. You know.
the furthest he's gone away is to some penitentiary somewhere, and he'll still be blogging from there probably. Of course,
Well,
you know it'll be a penitentiary with a golf course included.
He's gonna
Send
pardon
him
himself, you know.
Send them to public housing.
Oh, that would be lovely. That would be lovely. Hal and I were reading a couple of articles today. You remember when Ford pardoned Nixon, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Nixon stepped down and Ford pardoned him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Hal and I have kind of a difference of opinion about whether Trump would ever voluntarily walk away.
No.
We don't think he will, but he could.
What he's going to do is he's going to resign and he's going to have Pence pardon him. But the way he's been treating Pence as of late, I think he might turn against him and not do it. That's what I pray for.
It's possible.
What they pointed out in
Hi,
the article.
Marlene.
Because when Trump was going, when he wanted to go for his second term, he didn't pick Pence as his vice president. He chose his daughter. So that's a slap in the face, so to speak.
Oh, but Pence is a good puppy dog. He still admires him every time he says his name.
Yeah.
What they pointed out in this article was that a lady in the Justice Department, after the Nixon thing, wrote a paper that's still there, and it says that if he wanted to invoke the 25th Amendment, just sign a piece of paper that says, I'm incapable of performing my duties for the next 2 days. That's all you have to do, is just say, I'm incapable of performing my duties, maybe for whatever reason. Then you have to have a reason. Then Pence becomes the president for the next 2 days. Pence could then pardon him and anybody else that Trump didn't have the guts to pardon. And then 2 days later, he just signs another piece of paper and says, I'm ready to come back. So for 2 days,
I don't think that'll ever happen.
In my picture now.
I don't think it will happen either, but
No,
it would give him a way to do it without resigning.
He would see that as being a quitter.
Oh,
And my guess is he's going to pardon himself.
well, he cannot. That's in that paper that Hal's talking about.
It said that the legal precedent says you can't be your own judge. All the legal precedent is that a person can't be the judge at their own trial. Therefore, you can't give yourself a pardon.
But if it went to the Supreme Court, what would happen?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Well, they believe he just can't do it. And I think the legal aspect of it would keep you from doing it.
Yeah, the paper that we're talking about was a very talented lawyer, a female. I don't remember her name right now, but she wrote this paper back during the Nixon situation. And the paper has been used. The Constitution does not specify that the president can say, I just can't do my job right now. That's all the president has to say. And they have to give a reason. You know, I'm having brain surgery or something. You know, they don't even have to
It's
say.
a little late for that.
Well, yeah.
It's just for 24 hours. If he wasn't president, Pence would be.
Yeah.
And then Pence could do whatever he wanted for that 24 hours. But, you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if he does get a pardon, that's federal. What
That's
about
right.
state charges? Are state charges still
not-
in play?
It's not covered.
Well, they would still
Fine.
have
They
to.
charge
We
us.
still got him. He's going to jail.
I'm sorry. I've got a question though. He can't pardon himself until he's convicted of something. What is he going to be convicted of between now and inauguration day?
They can pardon him for any future crimes as well. Nixon was.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
true.
Boy.
My
Yep.
understanding is a pardon can be a very blanket thing, whether charged or not. I think that's the way the way it
And
works.
so that would be only for the federal things. That would not protect him from the various
State or
attorney
city.
generals that are
That's
going.
Right.
That's correct.
That's the only thing he's really in danger for anyway, is the state. The federal crimes, you'll probably never get brought up on anyway.
Right, but the state stuff is the one that relates back to his
Business.
potential tax and insurance fraud, right?
Uh-huh.
Right. And those are
And Cy
valid.
Vance is looking into that.
Right.
Well, that's good.
Yes, yes. Okay.
I think that I heard that his hotel in Vancouver has gone into bankruptcy, so
Oh, belly up, huh?
he needs his money, you know.
I think the thing, he's boasted so much about how much money he has. I think the thing that I would enjoy, I don't much care. Really, I truly don't much care if he goes to prison or anything. If he just got convicted of something and paid a huge fine and then just goes away. But I was going to ask that, do we think he's going to start another television station? What do you
Yeah.
how do we weigh in
It
on
sounds
that?
like it.
100%.
Online.
It's an online
TV station.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't see any glasses. I don't see any drinking going on. What's going on?
Hey,
here?
as soon as I knew what the topic was.
Oh,
We've
okay.
been drinking already. See?
Oh, okay.
Got a
Well,
head start.
If we're talking about Donald, I had to get to the bottom of this first.
this cheap champagne's been laying around in my
Whoa.
refrigerator.
Oh, there you go. We're going to celebrate. All right, I'll go get more.
I'm hoping that we all stay above board and I don't just mean us as a group, although that too, but just the entire Democratic Party just need everybody in their public statements, their attitude and the messages that they convey to be very above board, very factual. It's so easy to get drugged down into we're just like them.
Right.
Take the high road.
Yeah, you don't
Take the
have to
high
worry-
road, yeah.
You don't have to worry about me. I only use my sailor language in the privacy of our home when it's just Hal and me.
So they're already doing what you said, you know, relating back to 2016 and the fact that Hillary didn't want to concede and all that. So they're already playing the
Hello, Caroline.
that game.
And Lynn. Woo-hoo. Yeah, I think for the most part, I don't really know how to use Facebook. I usually just get on to see pictures of the kids or something. But I ended up in some political feed for politics in Florida somehow. I don't even know how I got there. So all the comments that are coming in, they're funny and they're ironical, but they're not nasty or anything. It's you know, everybody's watching their language and their P's and Q's.
Mm.
Well, you know, if you watch Joe Biden's performance, I mean, he is very calm, very professional.
Yes.
He's a gentleman.
Yeah, it's a complete change in tone and tenor, and if he continues that and he insists on that from his staff, you know, we should be in good shape from that angle, I think.
He's a
Agreed.
complete statesman.
He is. My goodness, have you guys been watching him on TV? I mean, the contrast is just
Startling.
astounding. It's astounding. And you know, I'm sure all of us went through a process during the campaign phase when all the other candidates were running, and we probably all had our favorite.
Right.
Right. I loved Amy Klobuchar.
Yeah.
I just thought she's
Yes,
smart,
she is.
okay, and powerful. You know, even if she had to stand up on a box because she's kind of diminutive, you know, but very powerful woman. And I like several of the. Oh God, I love Pete Buttigieg.
Oh.
But my problem with Buttigieg was I didn't think America was quite ready for a first gentleman yet. So I just thought maybe that wouldn't.
The
work.
electability issue was important. I mean, you could judge him as an individual, but can you count on at least 75 other million people judging him on his issues? And
But I read that President-elect Biden may put him in the cabinet.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
I cannot wait. One of my biggest.
Yeah, that's what.
I'm so eager to see how a cabinet's going to play out because I just know I'm going to love it.
Yes.
And
I think Susan Rice is going to be Secretary of State. That's my thinking.
She'd make a very good.
Well, it's going to be hard for Biden because all the best people were already employed by the previous administration.
That's it. It will be tough to replace people like our Secretary of Education, our Secretary of the Treasury.
You don't want to get me started on DeVos because I'm afraid to say it.
I just getting my spoon out.
He was going to drain the swamp. Instead, he filled it up to overflowing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Needed room for all that sewage.
Which one of the previous are you going to pick, though? There's a big crowd of people standing in line to.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a deep bench to choose from. He really does.
And people that know something about how government works, people that stayed awake during science class, maybe actually got a PhD or two. Yeah.
You mean not a big donor?
So.
No, but the thing is do you think that Biden has a chance to do anything if he doesn't have the Senate?
Well, we've already given to the Georgia Senate candidates. So we're helping to.
Of course, we couldn't quite match which Senator, Lindsey Graham. We couldn't match his $1 million contribution.
Lindsey Graham.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I actually believe that Biden would benefit from not having a majority in the Senate.
Okay.
How so? Say why.
Well, if he got the majority in the Senate, then he has to do everything that everybody wants, or he'll be cursed for it. If he doesn't have a majority, then he has to work with them, and he can take it a little slower and a little bit more deliberate. And the things that we care the most about, he can do through executive assignment, just like like Trump did. But
executive order. Yeah.
If he has the House and the Senate, then everybody's going to expect him to run. To me, he's not a runner; he's a walker, and he'll work better with anybody in Congress. most of the time in my life and in most of everybody here's life, we've had a divided Washington,
Federal government,
and
yeah.
the system has worked better because of it. So I don't
Yeah.
think he's gonna. I don't think he can lose either way. If we win those 2 seats, okay. If we don't, okay. I think he'll be just fine.
Oh, yeah.
But,
I agree.
McConnell has the power to defeat anyone he chooses for the cabinet
Yeah.
right off the bat.
They always have. They always have. It's been that way forever, and yet most of the time, you just have to go with the flow, so to speak. And I just don't think the world's going to come to an end if we don't win those 2 seats. I hope we do. We're contributing money and putting our effort into it. But if he doesn't, I'm not going to shed a single tear.
Right.
I can't believe that we're going to hear from McConnell for another 4 years. I don't think I can watch him.
6 years.
A third of the Senate's up
6
again in
years, yeah.
4 years.
Right,
So
right,
2
6
years
years.
from now that could change. 4 years from now that could change.
right. We haven't.
Well, where's his health at? What was going on with his dead man's hands and the splotches on his face? Did anybody ever hear the story on what that was?
Tried to look up.
They never commented on it, and it
No.
seems to have gone away.
Back to a majority in the Senate. One reason to have a majority is to be able to get your appointments to the courts and so forth through.
Well, I agree, but if you just make reasonable assignments, they won't block all of them. And I just believe that if he can have the Senate and the House, the first thing everybody's going to expect him to do is pack the Supreme Court or overload the Supreme Court with more seats. And I think that'd be disastrous.
I don't think he's going to do
I
that.
was really happy to see Brett Kavanaugh, the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah.
It surprised me.
Part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a shocker.
I find it hard to understand. And nobody believes this, but I really hate, I literally hate politics. Okay, let me just get that out there. So, but anyway, I find it hard to believe that what will be in it for the Republicans if they continue to have the same amount of obstruction that they've had all throughout, for instance, President Obama's presidency and everything. Maybe there's just stuff I don't know, and I'm sure there's a lot.
My opinion is it's all about keeping that base.
Right.
Yes.
Well,
That's what I feel.
But I think what's about 10 times more important than the Senate races in Georgia are the local races in Florida 2 years from now. If we can turn over some of those House seats and get control of the Florida government, that would be the thing that would make a difference to the whole United States, because then we could vote to join the group that wants the
To kill the Electoral College? Is that
the Electoral College done away with, sidestep the Electoral College.
Well, I disagree with Hal. I think we need to do everything we can to help the two guys in Georgia win their seats.
Oh, yeah, nobody
And
disagrees.
I understand Hal's point. He has a point. And none of us know what's going to happen. We're just all speculating.
But
it would do my heart good for those two guys.
So saying about McConnell, he was the head person during the Obama administration, and Obama was able to get some of his, most of his cabinet confirmed. So I don't think they would stop that. I think where they would stop would be any monetary thing that President-elect Biden would want to get through, the CARES Act or anything like that.
That being said, as bad as things were pre-Trump, okay, we're now post-Trump.
Yeah,
we've got a radicalized Republican Party that is way
true.
further out there than it was.
Here, here.
During the 8 years of Obama.
And it'd be a trick to see if that can heal itself. But,
Well, maybe they will obstruct until 4 years and Mr. Trump comes back to run for office.
I'm sure he'll want to do that, and that's why it's important to get him convicted of a felony so he can't run.
Yes.
Right.
Well, now there's an idea. I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
You know, he'll be 78, and
Yes.
no offense to anyone here in our group who is already 78, but I just don't know if he's already on to bigger and better things. Maybe he's getting the notoriety that he lives for elsewise. Maybe he won't run.
But if he doesn't run, Junior will.
Oh,
Or
boy.
his daughter.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, that to look forward to.
Yeah,
So,
any Trump at all.
what do you
Get them all convicted.
What do you think the public's response to Junior would be?
Oh, my
The
God.
base loves him.
Oh, okay. But how
Yeah.
about
Second generation's always better. I mean, like, look at Fall. Okay, maybe not look like Falwell.
Yeah.
Not quite.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah, I don't know. You know what? I wish I had a crystal ball so I could see who will be the Republican nominee in 4 years, because I just would just like to just start speculating about how this going to work, you know? And I don't know.
The way things are now, the way candidates have to start early, probably within a year, you'll know pretty much who's going to be running.
Yeah, they're already talking about the people jockeying, trying to put themselves in places and start thinking about running. I don't know if anybody else here does, but I'm tired of living in a perpetual.
Well, Junior has no money.
Who has no money?
Junior, Trump
Junior
Jr.
has no money.
They're doing tremendous fundraising right now there.
They
And
are.
That's
a
right.
lot of that is going to be to pay Trump's bills.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And all the people that I would happen to encounter, and I was talking to my brother. Everybody else in my family is a Trumper, okay? So I was talking to my
You
brother.
poor thing, you.
I know. I said, well, what do you really? I said, what did you expect to happen when he became president? My brother said, well, I expected him to run the country like a business.
Mm-hmm.
Into bankruptcy the way he does it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And my poor brother, he's a veteran. He's really very heavy into veterans activities up in Wisconsin. He's surrounded by other Trumpers, and he's kind of a go along to get along person. So I think he just takes the viewpoint of the people. It's the path of least resistance. That's what I think anyway.
A lot of them, it makes them feel like they belong to something because of whatever that is all about.
Need to know. Yeah.
They think they belong to a movement.
Yeah.
They do.
They drank the Kool-Aid early.
Yeah, they did.
The thing we
Yeah.
haven't used this word yet, so I'll just throw this word out here. And I see that we have one, Mr. Herman Brown is a proud African-American. He's the only African-American on our screen right now. And I'm going to say the word racism because we really, really, really act at our peril if we discount how much racism plays into our politics in the United States. We are
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely a lot.
litigating the Civil War. And
Yeah.
I wish to hell the South would concede and say the North won and everybody is a citizen of the United States and has a seat at the table. But I'm afraid there are some people who feel like they're being disenfranchised. I'm talking about white people. White people feel like they're being disenfranchised and pushed out of their country.
Right. Well, the high school dropouts that are pissed off because somebody with a PhD came to this country and took their job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know if any of you've noticed it, but there are a lot of Indian, and when I say Indian, I mean Asian Indians, as physicians here in Marion County.
Sure.
Many.
Most of them.
Also African-American physicians and physicians of other ethnicities.
Mhm.
My PCP is Asian, and she's adorable. She looks like she's 12 years old, and I love her. And but so what I'm trying to say is, our immigrants come and they make valuable contributions to our society, but there are some people who think they're being pushed out of the way. What I don't understand is, why don't you just, and I don't mean this to sound this way, you have an opportunity to grab your piece of the pie. You just have to figure out where your niche is and you go for it. That's the way I feel about it.
Well, let me say this about that, because I think on both sides, what gets overlooked is far more jobs have been displaced by automation and technology than any of these xenophobic type concerns and issues are involved. I came out of the automotive industry. I know over the 32 years I worked for a particular company and the 40 years that I was involved with Northern Industrial Enterprises, that there's a huge transformation in technology. Automotive assembly plants, I can tell you, early in my career, you would have 6,000 people employed at every plant, and that was already down from the 10,000 high a decade before I got there. And over the course of my 30 years, the same productivity, the same volume of vehicles, that's maybe my better way, the same volume of vehicles with much greater content, more pieces, more complexity, but the same or more vehicles per day. Instead of needing 6,000 or 6,500 people, these plants are using 1,500 to 2,000 people to put them together. And that's just one industry. Now let's go look at appliances. Let's go look at, pick any industry, something similar has been going on. That's where all the displacement is. This is just a damn smoke screen, talking about, because a lot of the immigrants that come here, exactly to your point, they're not competing with the disenfranchised Americans. I mean, even going back to my childhood, my brothers would not have survived childhood if it weren't for the Muslim doctor. He was the only one that would come to my parents' neighborhood. None of the wealthy American doctors were going to service our neighborhood. And without that Muslim immigrant pediatrician, a couple of my brothers wouldn't have made it out of childhood.
Well, there's a seismic shift going on around the world and in our country with technology that you bring up. And there is massive opportunity for people to learn new skills if they're willing to do it. And I don't know if you guys have been reading this, but Hal and I have been reading this for several years. Most of our kids or grandkids will change careers 4 or 5 times in their life. Okay? And so learning flexibility, starting at an early age, I taught, without belaboring the issue, in public high school for the last 5 years of my career, which was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But we have coddled those kids. They can't take failure. They are so tender, and it's too bad, because once you get out into the real world, ain't nobody gonna coddle you. You're gonna face hard facts. So there have been some new models for the public school systems that are being discussed to teach people more how to think and how to be flexible and resourceful, rather than just cramming, rote facts down there.
Has anybody heard yet who Biden's considering for Secretary of Education? I'm sure he's not keeping the boss around.
Yeah, he's thinking about keeping her on. She's done such a good job.
The name that's being put out is Weingarten. She's the teacher union head.
Weingarten.
Oh, Terry.
Yes, I've heard her speak a number of times. I was actually very impressed.
She's Betsy DeVos's best friend.
Yes, I'm sure she is.
There's a congresswoman who is a Native American. I think her last name is Hake or Hageland or something like that. and he's considering her for Secretary of the Interior.
Interior. Ooh, wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be
That would
righteous.
That would
That
be.
would be really, really
Good.
good. Yes. Oh, we have so many possibilities for good people to be in the
Yeah.
cabinet and the whole.
Yeah.
The one problem the future kids have, though, is to climb the ladder is the education and the cost of education.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Will prevent, if it continues the way it is, will prevent a lot from ever making it all the way up the ladder, so to speak.
Well, that's the reason I didn't hate Bernie's idea or the idea of 2 years of free community college. I would totally pay a little bit extra taxes. Now, the last 5 years that I was teaching, I'm not a professional educator. It's a long story. You don't want to hear it. But I was in the school system for 5 years. I found out something I didn't know. A lot of the kids that were in AP classes, advanced placement classes, they were getting college credits as they were taking classes in high school. Well, there's already a step toward free first 2 years. A lot of them were going to be close to an associate's degree by the time they got ready. And I think many people could figure out a way if they could just get that first 2 years under their belt, to be able to finance or figure out the way. And I know it's prestigious to pick a lovely, prestigious school and go there all the 4 years and all that stuff. But us poor people, we were born poor. We didn't have that option. So we have to do it the way we can do it. And that's just the way it is.
Well, for most career fields that are going to be in the greatest shortage in this decade, it's associate degree level education that's necessary.
Correct.
And really, it's just a matter of get these people up to speed, because things change so much that once they're in their career field, then they will just update through their corporate education to stay relevant in that field. It's only when there's upheavals that that's no longer good enough. But it's just they've got to be up to a point where the employer now can move them along.
But I don't know if you've read about this trend in industry right now. There's some famous man who kind of started this. Some of the largest corporations are starting to hire people who are extremely talented and self-taught in various different disciplines, and they don't even have college degrees. And we had I taught health science, and we had an autistic Asperger's student in one of my classes, and he was 17 and got a job with one of the preeminent software companies in San Antonio before he even got out of school, because he had such advanced programming skills. So there will be, you don't have to have Asperger's to do that, but
Right.
So
don't want to suggest it as a common avenue because it won't work for every kid, but you look at people like Gates, like Job, like Wozniak, Dean Kamen. People may not know that name as well, but First Robotics, the Segway is what most people know. But before Segway, he had this whole line of pharmaceutical, now I shouldn't say pharmaceutical, but medical science patents. Multimillionaire, he owns his own island off the coast. Another guy that he got kicked out of college, I think, his freshman year. But he went on and on and on and on and accomplished things that most people with a master's in their field would never accomplish.
But
so
they are looking
I
for-
think there's enough cases out there that show that the university's concept has been a bit oversold. But I hate to play it down too much because it's one thing to have the technology skills to be an economically viable citizen. It's another thing to have a little bit more liberal arts education so you can be a good voting citizen. Where do we balance that out?
Well, Hal and I were just discussing earlier this evening whether it is civil malpractice not to be involved in politics at any level. What I mean is maybe you want to be a city councilman or you want to be a county, in the county government, or because a lot of Americans just turn their back, as I was for many, many years. I turned my back on the whole thing until election day came around, and then I just went out and voted. And I thought I was doing my job. And then I moved to Ocala, Florida, and oh God. And that it ain't that way anymore. So I think we need more civic involvement, and the kids need to be encouraged to do it.
Well, regarding education, and at the age of 51, I went back to school full time and got a master's degree. And so I did not expect people to knock on my door being an old guy by that time. But I had more offers, invitations to interview and offers to choose from. So not everybody can do that. That's a very difficult lift because of primarily money.
Yeah.
So, but and I did that because the area that I had worked in previous to that, I knew there was not much of a future. And given that the business cycle now used to be about 20 years before a new technology or whatever came into play. But the business cycle now is down to, just a few years. So
right.
That's where your skill set becomes so necessary, not only to do the job you're doing, but also to do other jobs and make yourself valuable in other professions or occupations. And that's tough.
I would counsel young people, if I were still in a position to do that, to pay attention to trends. Where are the trends? Where you can get online and look and see the kinds of businesses that are continuing to hire and where that's going, and just be ready to think about switching it up if you have to. And believe me, I don't really care for change very much, but people are just going to have to be ready to do that, like you did, Jim. Did you change careers altogether?
Yes.
What would you go from what to what?
I went from generally planning and administering jobs and education programs, federal programs to teach people how to get to work, how to get to improve both their skills occupationally as well as educationally. And the second was geographic methods. How's that?
Well, were you a civil servant?
Yes, I was for some time, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
I understand that, Jim. That's great, because I went back to school and I was about 50. But I did 4 years and that was just my bachelor's. And that's what got me more involved in politics, because it was human services. And so, yeah, I learned about, advocacy, and it was for children and families more than anything. So you certainly need that extra education. And I think sometimes it happens easier for us when we are older, because then we're labeling our experience and it makes it faster. And, but sometimes it happens later. And it's not, I think I agree with you, Linda, that we need to educate early, but there's so many other things that are.
Oh, well, I was just talking about getting them ready for the change. That's it. I'm all for, nobody paid for my college. There was quite a dust up in my son's household when my granddaughter, the 20-year-old, got told they weren't sending her completely to college. She had to participate, and so she's doing online junior college right now, and then going to transfer to Texas A&M in about 6 months. So, but they just weren't going to put the full bill. So she has a wonderful job, believe it or not, in insurance. So she's making very good money and able to pay for her own education.
Linda, you just expressed that you don't like change, and I think that we all know where you're coming from and have all felt that sometimes, but I propose a toast to a change.
What?
Does that mean I got to go refill again? I don't even like wine. But yes, cheers.
To change at the highest levels. Let's roll with it.
Well,
Cheers.
I know. I want to get Trump out of the White House.
January the 20th.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
January 20th.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, I started off a little bit later in life too, so, and I wasn't ready to take that on until later. So, Jim, I hear you. I got you.
What'd you switch from, Marlene?
You know, pretty much, like I said, I took something on later in life, but I was pretty much, my husband and I owned our own business for many years, got divorced, and then figured I needed a better job. So I just put myself through this little certification program, and I'm a personal trainer, nationally certified personal trainer. I was in my 40s when I did that. Not easy to recruit new clients when you're 40, when they're looking for, 20 and 30-year-olds, but I did it, and I made a good amount of, income off of that, and had a great clientele that I left back in Michigan to come to Ocala. We just moved here in May, so we're pretty new, and just trying to get our feet wet right now with learning what's going on in this community.
Nothing's going on.
Yeah, I see that.
Not now.
So, we're willing to help out and participate, but we want to be with the right tribe.
Well, she means the left tribe.
I can't see. I can't see who's speaking.
Down at the pool.
But it's
Oh,
important to
peeps.
us. I
can't see who's speaking.
You can't?
No.
On your Zoom, Judy, it's whoever's screen is surrounded by a yellow border. That's usually, but sometimes more than one person will be speaking at a time, and the computer does its best to make out.
Right, but Gary, you've got a green screen, a green border, and the person who was talking didn't have any border. All I see is a lovely couple, Chitwood, Patton, you, and me.
You need more pictures, There's a
Yeah.
way to do that on your screen.
You can change that too. Probably up along the top edge of your screen, you can change
You
it
scroll.
to speaker view or gallery view, I think it's called.
Gallery.
Anyway, who spoke that? Because I might know who that is.
I think I was speaking, but I don't know if you can see me. It's
Who are you?
Marlene.
We do. I do see.
Marlene.
She has to scroll.
Marlene, not across the street from the Phalons, right?
Don't think so.
Is that Judy has a big glass of wine? Judy has a big glass of wine on her skirt.
That's sparkling grape juice, folks. I want to be able to remember what you said.
I was going to say, I thought you started celebrating a little early, Judy.
No. I haven't had alcohol since January of '82, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay.
I changed from a young hippie to an aging hippie. Okay, that's what I changed.
I love it. I love it. I did my obligatory year in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It was great.
Oh.
And the brownies were wonderful.
After I protested at Kent State, we were protesting at Eastern Michigan. Marlene, you're from Michigan. Huron's hats off to you.
Yeah.
555 for old EMU. But we were having a protest on campus that was legitimate, but then we went off campus and I got arrested, blah, blah, blah. And then I became the other kind of hippie, not the political activist kind, because I was fed up. There were people who were instigating us. A lot of my friends got hurt, and everybody knows the stories. Well, not everybody. The young people do not know the song "4 Dead in Ohio." So,
My kids know it.
Gary's
man,
from Ohio.
great.
Crosby, Stills, Nash. But no, actually, it was Buffalo Springfield.
Oh.
No, Neil Young.
Neil Young?
Neil Young.
Oh.
And the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. But anyway, I was born in Chicago, raised in Ohio, went to college in Michigan, blah, blah, blah. The point I was making, like you said, Marlene, I became disillusioned with the whole process. So I stopped caring. I became totally apathetic, even though I have voted in every election except one, and I don't remember which one that was. The voting people sent me a deal where I didn't vote. But anyway, my interest became piqued because unfortunately, not that I was divorced, but I was dating a conscientious objector who was a gunsmith, and he said in 2016 the relationship only lasted 6 months, and he said that those people that he was selling guns and making guns for, there would be a civil war in this country if Trump did not get elected. So I made sure I voted. And I voted wrong. I voted wrong because I don't like Hillary Clinton. I worked in Little Rock when they were governor, and governess. And I threw away my vote, but not this time. And because somehow I had a question for Gary Green, I called him up because I figure I can't get a straight answer. I've done my due diligence Googling, and I still couldn't find the answer because people were accusing Kamala of selling baby parts.
Oh my gosh.
Which is far
on the
easier
black
to
market.
believe than Trump banging
know.
a 14-year-old. Okay.
But Gary gave me the clue, and I thought, why don't I just get involved a little bit more and put my money where my mouth is? And I don't have any money, but I have a mouth.
All right. Woo-hoo. Good for you. Love it. Love it. That's great.
A question about this election season's over, except for Georgia, but in 2 years we do have a Senate race. I think will, and then all the representatives come up for a vote every 2 years. So are we thinking about what we may be doing pretty soon in order to help?
How do we get rid of the Republicans? How do we get rid of Republicans?
We have to get more people to register to vote and be inclined to vote our way. That's how we do it.
When we were looking at moving,
I don't. For those of you who are new to Marion County, I think most of us maybe already know this, but we outnumber the Republicans in Marion County if we partner up with the non-party affiliated.
Wow.
There are more of us when added to them. So what you have to do is you have to work real hard. I was talking to Gary the other day. I have a problem with our allowing the Republicans to label us and name us and make our identity what they want, instead of us making our identity as Democrats what we want.
they've been very successful at that. Yes.
They are geniuses at it.
They're following their leader. They're following their leader.
I mean,
They're
it's a
insulting,
common.
They're negative. They're horrible. I mean,
Elementary school bullies do that all the time.
They're
It's,
Christian. Are you kidding me?
so
We're doing a little bit better right now on television. There are some ads and also the news channels that advocate for us with a common message of it was a legal election. Biden won. It was a legal election. Biden won. And what we need to do going forward is we need to have a common message, a very simple message that everybody repeats in lockstep, just like the Republicans do. So because there's a common thing about what you will believe. You will believe something if you hear the thing over and over and over again.
Right.
People will believe.
True or not, repetition
Also-
causes belief.
Repetition, retention. But I want to throw something in that's a little more current, and I understand what you're saying. But we are the only state, as far as I know, in the entire country with a Republican governor where the state is completely open for everybody to get COVID. And how can we do something about that? That is more important right at this moment, in my humble opinion.
He comes up in 2 years for a re-election.
Yeah.
We have to.
We might be all dead in 2 years. We might be all dead in 2 years unless we stay home.
Judy, I know the only way I know to do it is to be politically active. And which really bothers me because I hate politics.
I'll say this.
Oh, I like to be spiritually active. I like to be spiritually active. I need that first. Otherwise, I'm no good for the rest of this stuff. Otherwise, I wouldn't even care about this stuff.
That might help.
I've become a little concerned since the election of the Democrats beating themselves up about this election. And I don't understand that. We went into an election, we kept the House, control of the House, doesn't matter how many seats. Democrats keeping control of the House 2 times in a row, especially against an incumbent president, is unheard of. We increased the number of senators that we have, and we won the White House. And yet they're acting like the Democrats ought to all go out and pull down their pants and do mea culpa.
Because they were thinking that it would be a total blue tidal wave. And of course, that didn't come true.
And I get that. With the incumbent, as bad as he is, consider what has caused people to leave office in the past or drop out of races were things that were relatively minor compared to any one of the 100 things that Trump has done. So when you've got somebody that's that blatantly bad and you find out that crap, it was almost 50-50 trying to beat him, I understand where they're saying, what did we do wrong? We were up against Lucifer himself and could barely pull off a win. What are we doing wrong?
I don't think we did anything wrong. If somebody can't understand that we won this election, like say we won more seats in the Senate, we might have lost a few
in the House.
And the seats they lost in the House, for the most part, were ones that just flipped 2 years ago in Republican districts. The Republicans won them back with better candidates. But the thought that we somehow failed this past election is, to me, crazy, because we're going to be on January 20th putting Joe and Kamala in, and with more senators than they had before. And it's just, and a House still having the House, I cannot see how anybody can say that the Democrats failed.
I agree with your positive point wholeheartedly. I agree that there was success, but I guess I just want to again clarify that I think what has people so dismayed is that we were up against such blatant moral corruption, such blatant lying. How is it a close call? That's what we've got to reflect on. I agree with you that, yes, it was a success. We've got to take the win. But how, as a country, did we end up at a point where almost half our population is more willing to believe ludicrous lies than they are willing to believe the truth? What needs to be fixed in our society?
The problem is that we as electors are failing. I mean, we're failing this country. Not we, the Democrats, but I mean, the 50% you're talking about, I mean, people are just not using their heads, and they're not even voting in their own self-interest.
In some
it's-
cases, no, they vote against their own
Exactly,
self-interest
exactly.
because they believed a false message.
Right. And
That's where
is-
we failed, is how do we get,
I
try
mean,
to-
there?
yeah, consider what happened in South Florida, where the Republicans kept constantly using the words socialism and communism
Right.
interchangeably.
Right.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
that you could actually see why those Cubans had to vote against it there, because they were running away from communism, and yet the message that was being fed to them is that socialism equals communism.
Right.
That
Right.
should have
That's because-
been explained to it there.
And they've been
That's because they all came from, a lot of them came from Cuba, which
Yeah.
is communist, and
Well,
yada
of
yada.
course, yeah,
But it's not
they were against
socialism.
communism, but they equated socialism
Yeah,
and
right.
communism.
Yeah.
They say that word just like because of Bernie
Sweden
Sanders.
is
I hate to say.
socialist. The UK
So's
is
Israel.
socialist.
Of
Yeah.
course.
So's Canada,
I mean,
Israel.
the Republicans did a great job of making that message in Spanish to them. So they were
Right,
speaking
in
directly
Florida,
to
South
them.
Florida.
It's a messaging
You
war.
guys are making my point for me.
Yeah,
Who
Marco
labeled
Rubio,
them?
who never did his job when he was senator here in Florida, and those people, and I'm not saying those people being Latinos, I'm just saying those Republicans. Those Republicans made it happen. And somewhere on MSNBC, one of the commentators said this is the only place where Biden really failed was South Florida.
But
Where
they
he didn't
need
do enough.
to get away from the socialism thing that AOC and Bernie Sanders pushed so hard. I believe they need to reimagine that a little bit, and social responsibility, not socialism, but social responsibility, and then figure
So I
out.
think that's key, social responsibility.
And I think we need to figure out some way to relabel the abortion argument.
Right.
The abortion
That's a good idea.
killing us with the hardcore Catholics in South Florida.
Right.
It's a marketing and messaging war, and we are losing it. And yeah, I think of Bernie Sanders, and I'm a big Bernie Sanders fan, but if he promotes himself as a democratic socialist without defining democratic socialism, that's a problem, right?
Right. I think
And defund the police is another thing.
Right.
I understand, but the Republicans don't know what defund means to us.
Right, exactly.
Use that.
Bad name.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
Messaging.
Bad name.
They don't know what abortion means to us either.
Properly fund the police department, because most policemen are underpaid and they're not paid what they deserve to be paid for the risk they're taking, just like most firemen aren't. But so
Understand.
to stand defund the police department, we need to properly fund it and hire and train correctly.
I agree, but it's a messaging war, and we're losing that because we haven't figured it out yet. Frank Luntz, Republican strategist and Republican advisor to the messaging for Republicans, man, he's a genius. He's the guy that came up with death panels and all of that that the Republicans have.
Feckless.
Linda,
Yep.
outside of this meeting, I like what you said about going forward, and I would like to know from Gary and or Wayne, will there be like an agenda and a plan to implement what Linda's talking about? How we can start doing it now before the election?
Well, okay. If you don't mind, Wayne, are you there? Gary, you're there. Wayne,
He went down there.
he went down and turned his mic off. Okay, well, I'll speak, and any other board member can just weigh in here. Yes, we are going to do. Here's what normally happens for you new people who haven't been with us for 4 years. We normally have a lovely dinner celebration in November. Well, this is our lovely dinner celebration, although none of us are eating, right? And
Yummy.
Yeah, we can't be together in person. And then we take December off, to have a nice Christmas celebration, which I cannot imagine what it's going to be like this year. It's going to be horrible. We usually go to Texas in December, but anyway. Starting in January, we start up our meetings again. The board met the other day and we decided because of the rise in cases of COVID in the United States and in Marion County, we are going to continue to meet via Zoom. And once we decide as a board and a club what actions we want to take to try. Hi, Wayne.
Hello.
Okay, I'm speaking for you and for the rest of the board. You weigh in anytime. If somebody asks, what are we going to do? What's our plans for the future? And I'm saying we will devise a plan. But what's happened kind of in the past is that a lot of us have gone off and done individual projects rather than mounting a club-wide project. So that remains to be seen, whether we will unite as one group and do some kind of campaign for candidates, or whether different people will take their different things, like make telephone calls or write postcards or whatever we're going to do. We won't have another formal club meeting until January, when we can, and I would think, and I would hope Wayne and Gary and the other board members would like for us to just spend that time with our club members talking about what we want to do going forward.
Do we put that in line with the Democratic Committee in Ocala, or whatever you call it?
Okay, thank you for asking that. We are actually official. We are members through the Marion County Democratic Party. We are members of the Florida Democratic Party, and we are an official club with rules that we have, guidelines we have to follow.
Well, count me in. I'm interested. Yes, I'm a newbie, but I'm not newbie to being a Democrat. So I'm newbie to be re-involved in the world before I leave this world.
Welcome.
Fantastic.
Me too.
This is a way I can make a little bit of a footprint. Just a little bit, maybe.
One thing that the Trumpsters I still do not have a feel for why they support Trump. What is it in their lives that has caused them to believe that children are being molested and so forth and so on? But
I could send stuff to you, Jim.
What are those things that we need to kind of know that we can attack to some degree, to try to make the record straight, regardless of
I don't want to beat a dead horse
it,
here, but I'm going to say again.
I want you to get a new.
There are many white people in the United States who do not like the browning of America. And I'm sorry, anybody else weigh in with me here?
Oh, that's right.
There is a fear. There is a fear.
We have a problem in the United States.
No, but Trump took a larger majority of African Americans than did Obama.
Say that again? Trump did what?
A large percentage of the African Americans voted for Trump.
Okay, I don't.
I think it was 12% and 88% for Democrats.
Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, so I don't know where that information came from, because that's not what we're hearing.
That's what Trump said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Must be true.
The African American vote went primarily for Biden.
You know, it's going to be harder this time than ever before. I was in traditional elections, most people vote at a voting place, and then they get tested on the way out. People will stop them on the way out and ask them questions, who you vote for, and all that kind of stuff. So the exit polling is what they go on. The exit polling didn't exist this time, so the data for this election is going to have a big asterisk next to it forever, because we won't really ever know. But they believe that only 12% of the African American population, the black population, voted for Trump, and 88% for the Democrat. But
I think
we'll ever know.
I think that what Jim was referring to was that Trump took a higher percentage of black males this time than in 2016.
Oh,
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
keeps true.
Yeah.
But even that,
Ben Carson had
possibly-
a strong presence in that.
they cannot possibly know because they can't look at your ballot and match it to your ethnicity and all that kind of stuff. Exit polling is what told people
Yeah, sure.
only get
Yeah.
been alive. So we're conditioned to believe what people say about that, but it cannot be true this time. It just cannot be. You got to believe
Sure.
science. It can't be.
I thought on our voter registration, we have to say what we are genetically.
Yes, but they cannot link how you voted.
Yeah. Your ballot can't be linked to your registration.
Easy to
Yeah.
know that I'm
okay.
a white
Okay.
Caucasian, but it's not easy to know who I voted for. It's illegal.
Yeah.
Right, that's why he's saying it's the exit polling was always such an important
And it
way
just
of understanding how it went.
practically doesn't exist this time.
Right.
And probably the only thing we know about exit polling is the majority of people who showed up at the polls on election day tended to be Trumpists because everybody else was believing the
Scientists.
invented story. Yeah, this COVID myth that was out there.
Mail fraud. all of
Yeah,
that.
made people voting for the other side use the mail-in ballot. So that's going to skew to supporting his point is that exit polling is going to be less representative and more skewed this time around than it's
True.
ever been in the past.
Yeah.
Just because of the greater use of mail-in balloting.
Still talking about what we're up against. Most of you watch the news and you've noticed that in the world, on Earth, many countries are going populist and nationalist. And once again, not to beat a dead horse, but it's this disruption in the world that's called massive migrations of people from war-torn countries to other countries where maybe they don't look like the population of the country. For instance, in Germany, there was a massive influx of Muslims, and that's caused a lot of problems. It's caused problems in England. So what we have is a war against populism, and the key to populism is that the people who those people who voted for Trump, they may not even know they're populists, but they are. They have a grievance. And the grievance is these others are coming into our country, taking our resources. And that was a major message of the Republican Party. And Trump has shown himself he behaves like a white nationalist. So he was their guy. And that's why they voted for him. Now, there were other issues too, the judges. And of course, abortion is a major issue for a lot of people. And then they had to label us socialist and sort AOC, and Bernie played right into that because most of the people in the United States don't realize that social programs are socialistic in nature. No, we are not. We do not have a socialism government. We're not socialism. We're capitalism. But with a few little tweaks to make sure that a lot of people don't get left out and fall through the cracks.
Since we're back on that topic, I'd like to throw the question out to anybody that's currently or formerly had been a school teacher. In recent decades, in civics or government class, how much is taught about American politics and the various labels for, first of all, how U.S. governments are organized, and then secondly, in the overall understanding the terminology? Are kids even learning in school the differences, or is this like sex ed where it's being left up to the parents to teach their own wrong version?
I'll throw in real quickly before everybody else does. Civics and grammar are off the chart. They're not in the curriculum.
Exactly.
Civics has been gone for a while, and grammar is gone.
Is there another professional public educator on the screen right now?
I'm not
Okay.
an educator, but anyway, the current, what the Republicans are trying to do currently regarding civics education is what they would label the true history, which is very much biased. How do we do that? How do we overcome that as a Democrat?
In public education as a non-professional educator. I'm a respiratory therapist. I got to teach health science technology because of that. I was astounded in the state of Texas to find out how much leverage over what is taught in schools comes from the state legislature.
Right.
Now, Texas is a right-wing, Southern, Bible-thumping state. My apologies to anybody who's really religious, and I do not mean I don't mean anything to your religion or anything. I mean, I support everybody's right to do their religion however they want it. Okay. And in Texas, you better watch out what kinds of things you talk about in the classroom, even if it's in the curriculum, because especially the last job I had, I was out in a little, what I call the KKK stronghold in a little village in Texas called Bernie. And everything was skewed right wing and Republican in the class. And that was okay because the little village and the Texas legislature was Republican. But being the mouth that I am, I out myself. I'm unable to keep my opinions and my true beliefs to myself, so I was always in trouble.
Well,
That's good trouble.
Good trouble.
Yeah.
Good trouble.
but really, if you go look at, just call up any high school on the internet you want to, and look at their curriculum, and look at the classes that are offered to students, civics isn't one of them.
That's right.
Wow.
Creationism is.
So,
Yeah. Oh,
so I should be surprised then that we've got another generation that doesn't understand how government's supposed to work.
They're ill-equipped.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
word.
Yeah.
Well, the sad truth of it is that most adults don't know either. When you try to explain to people that there's so many people who aren't involved in like a Democratic club or Republican club, if you tell them that the House of Representatives has to stand for re-election every 2 years, you'd be shocked to find out how many people don't know that.
Right.
Mhm.
And it just little silly things like that you take for granted knowing, but it's not. People just don't know those things. They don't know who elects this or who elects that, or how judges are elected or appointed in different states. They just don't know.
Or even if they did learn, I swear it's even who they hang out with, whether they're working with that person or in a building that, promotes a different way of thinking. That's where they just turn their way to say, I want to fit in with this tribe, than to speak out. I see it even with my own family, my own children.
uh-oh.
Yeah. So it's uncomfortable. It's like we can't talk about things. They still love me. I love them, but we know we can't talk about it. But I didn't raise them like that. But they've learned to turn to whoever they're seeing more, like 7 days a week, 50 hours a week or whatever. And they're turning their values to that way of thinking. And that's where I see my own family, my kids, not all of them, but 2 out of 3.
I think Marlene has a point there. I hear from my neighbors more and more that, I golf with so-and-so, but we don't, politics is off the table. He's a wonderful man, but we don't talk about politics.
And that's
and that's the way we are socially.
Well, in Oak run. We have to be that way because we're outnumbered. And if we want to get along with anybody, we need to be cool. Now, unfortunately,
Well, it used to be okay. I used to actually enjoy back and forth. And frankly, over my lifetime, I would sometimes vote to the right because I thought we were too far left. Sometimes I would vote to the left because I thought we were too far right. Just because it used to be the American system, banging off those side rails was how we stayed in the middle. It's just now it's gone over the rails, and that's what's getting scary about how do you bring it back. I mean, I'm okay with the debate. Let's tell me your facts, I'll tell you my facts. Let's figure this out together. But we don't have that anymore.
We're so
because
divided.
we're not discussing facts anymore. We're discussing some off the wall conspiracy theory versus some facts, and it's just my facts are not near interesting enough to compete with the off the wall conspiracy theories. So how do you educate people back when they're off the deep end? And we're not talking just the lunatic fringe anymore. We're talking, sounds like damn near half of us are the lunatic fringe. That's the word fringe doesn't work, you know.
Well, if you stop and think about it, the National Enquirer sold at the grocery store has always outsold the New York Times. So people want to hear the crazy a lot more than they want to hear the
yeah, it almost makes them feel like their life is normal.
Yeah, except that we when we read something in the tabloids, we acknowledged that these were tabloid stories and all there.
Right.
These days, you have facts and then you have alternative facts. So you actually have two sets of facts. How can you do anything with that there?
Invented by Trump.
Yeah, right. Alternative facts.
Actually,
Fake news.
Jimmy will remember
Fake news, right.
Lee Atwater.
Jim Carroll.
Yeah,
Jim
right.
Carroll.
Lee Atwater was a
Remember him?
Republican. He was the brains behind the Republicans that turned the Republican Party into what it is today.
We have a kind of an insidious influence in our country right now, the anti-science bias, and most authoritarian governments they go after the intellectuals, they go after the science, and that's been happening in our country for a lot of years. And you know, I don't want to be so personal and talk about myself all the time, but I had some experiences with actual science teachers that I couldn't believe they were science teachers because of what they were telling me and what they thought was true. And so if you have that strong anti-bias, anti-science bias, and you have a person in the White House who is constantly pounding the drum that everything that you're hearing is false news, naturally people are gonna be wary of what they're hearing, or be suspect, or not believe something. And then the final thing I'm going to say about this, I support 100% the right for any person to practice any religion that they want to practice. What I don't support are theocracies, and when any religion starts to encroach on our secular government and the laws that are passed in our country, then I oppose that wholeheartedly. And
Well, you would not have liked went to town the day after the election, Wednesday after the election, and I went past Queen of Peace Church, and who had set up a table and were waving in the church yard, waving Trump flags and so forth. So that just tells you a little bit about theocracy, I guess you could say.
I am devastated, but I'm so sorry about Queen of Peace. I'm not Catholic, but I graduated from Gonzaga University in Spokane, Washington, and my best friend at the school was one of my philosophy professors who used to be the president of Gonzaga, 70-some-year-old guy when I was in my 30s, and we used to have lunch together every Wednesday at the place where the priest lived. Anyway, he was such a philosopher. He was a Jesuit, and we never talked about abortion. We never did. We talked about reincarnation. We talked about a lot of things, but we never talked about abortion. I wish he were alive now so I could call him on the phone and say, what is the matter within the church that priests are standing up and teaching people to label us as baby killers, murderers, when we, on election day, some of us were manning tables outside of our polling places here in Oak Run, and we actually got called baby killers. And that's wrong. That's wrong. You know,
my reaction back to those people at this point in time now is, again, I'm not a fan of abortion, but don't say you're pro-life and then be anti-contraception, anti-sex education, and tell me indirectly that it's okay to take a living, breathing child or adult who's at risk for their life and say, no, they need to go back where they came from and wait until our 2-year process, 3-year process lets them in. No, it's okay for those people to die, but, and that's what I'm saying. I don't want to be supporting abortion, but damn it, they are so inconsistent that they'll harp on that one issue, but all these other things that lead to more abortions and all these things that fail to protect humans that are already alive. Right. Oh, well, no, those immigrants are bad people. You know, I'm sorry, that one issue really gets me, because they want to be so damn self-righteous on that one little point, but they're incapable apparently of a holistic philosophical viewpoint to realize all these other issues. And then, like she's pointed out before, and then what makes it all worse is, okay, that unwanted babies here, they don't want to support any social safety nets that would allow that kid to get a decent education and become productive. So lock the son of a bitch up. You know, so how do you overcome that? What's the message? What's the education to get people to realize that if you want to really be focused on that one issue, here's all the other things that relate to it? Is that just too much for their little brains, or
they're not listening to our words? Our words are pro-choice. It's nobody's business, a female's body, except a female. And we have to just focus on pro-choice. I'm not for abortion, but I am for pro-choice.
You can be opposed to abortion and in favor of choice, yeah.
Abortion is a medical procedure that is necessary in many cases to protect the life of the mother. That it's a medical procedure, that's first and foremost. It's also personal. The only people that should be involved, not the government, the only people that should be involved in who gets an abortion is the person who wants to have it, the person's partner who may want to be involved, the doctor, and if the person is a religious person, then they consult with their higher power, and if then everything is okay, they do what they need to do. But sometimes it's not a case of the matter of choice. It's a tubal pregnancy, and they're going to die if they don't get an abortion, and so that's just it. But these people are so ignorant and stupid. You can't talk.
So the topic has become very binary. I understand your point that yes, it is pro-choice, but pro-choice has somehow morphed into being synonymous with pro-abortion, and that is frustrating. And and that's, I guess, the question I'm asking, and I don't know, are these the projects we get involved with, is that at what point do we let me see, what levers do we have available to pull to try to change the messaging or the terminology? Because I think that's part of how we lose some of these battles, is the terminology and the labeling has been applied by the right wing. And just like socialism, communism, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
Pro-choice, pro-abortion, it's all the same thing. All that kind of labeling's been going on, and it misses a whole bunch of other points. It misses a lot of other interconnected issues. And so what is it that we need to do? What can we be involved with?
We need to get all those Republicans to adopt all these babies.
Well, yeah, that too.
You're constrained. We were talking about the other day, Linda and I, and someone else, I can't remember who was it, about the fact that when Biden, for instance, or when we try to argue with somebody, we try to argue with the truth and with facts.
Logic.
But if you're arguing against somebody who doesn't care at all about the truth or facts,
science,
they can use any argument they want, like baby killers or Pizza Huts, you know,
right.
anything they want to use, because the truth does not constrain them a bit. So you're just, it's like arguing or like fighting with one hand tied behind your back, because you're trying to stay with facts and the truth, and they're not.
exactly. That's
Right,
exactly.
but we can't give up on that, because
That's
so
what they
far,
want you to do.
so
I think
far,
our
about half
best
the
tool
people are
is voting.
thinking that way, and half the people are voting that way. And unless we somehow make science, facts, truth matter again, and terminology matter again, you know, we're just going to end up being on the sidelines more and more frustrated. So, and I know I'm maybe throwing it out as a burden on everybody else. I wish I had the answers, but you know, if anybody is involved with something where, you know, we can help push the needle a little bit on one of those issues of education. And I mean, yes, ideally the kids should be learning in school how government works and what correct terminology is. But I also know damn well that a teacher can be outnumbered. The truth is what the local community wants the truth to be. And a teacher that shows up with facts could be missing out on a pension. So, you know, are there other things that we need to be doing to protect those people? Like, I mean, I even go so far. Was anybody ever able to do anything for that data scientist in Florida that lost her job when she wouldn't skew the data the way DeSantis aides wanted her to? She lost her state job, and she's probably going to be okay because she's a smart cookie, but still, there's some benefits and some perks in her career that she lost trying to do what was right. And what did any of us do for her? What could any of us have done for her?
I still think voting is our most powerful tool, and also doing something, anything. I mean, my participation in this club is my first foray into anything political. And so, and you know, I've done my little bits here and there. So we need more people, but all of us are of a certain age where we're in the last, 25% of our time span. And so we need to make sure we're encouraging younger people that we know to get involved. But if you pay attention to the politicians and how they vote, for instance, on pro-choice. My very educated husband here reminded me that the Roe v. Wade was ratified or said to be constitutional by the Supreme Court because it is a privacy issue.
Ah,
And I didn't realize that. I didn't know that it had been decided.
And most people would say it wasn't even correctly interpreted at the time. So it hinges on a very thin, almost non-existent thread.
Right. And so based on privacy, who the hell is getting involved in our gynecological care in the first place, or our obstetrical care? I resent it, and I don't even have to worry about it. But, you know, I have grandchildren, I have granddaughters, and I think women should have their choice what they want to do.
So long ago.
What?
I just want to point out, I'm about to leave the room, but I just want to remind everybody that once again, we won the election. We won the whole thing hands down. This sounds like a bunch of Jewish people sitting around trying to decide who's got the worst ailment. But, but the fact of it is, we were the winners, and the Democratic Party.
Well, we're all very happy.
The Democratic Party won this election.
Marlene, did you guys, are you still there? Oh, you're still there. Okay. Gary, I feel your pain, Gary. The other Gary.
Which Gary?
Marlene, Gary. I hear your frustration, and I understand it. I feel exactly like you feel. And the only way, as soon as Trump got elected, I knew I couldn't just do nothing anymore. I had to do something, and just if nothing more than to make myself feel better. So that's all we can do. And you guys are perfectly welcome to join us in January, and we'll start talking about what we might want to do going forward. We're a pretty informal group. Just let you know. Our parliamentarian isn't even on our meeting tonight. Our Don's our parliamentarian. We're very informal, and we pretty much we're very democratic. We try to take everybody's feelings into account. And
this is Cat.
Yeah, got another visitor to us.
that was Elvis the cat.
So Elvis is not dead. Okay, great. That's great.
Just one comment on Roe v. Wade is even if you overturn it, you don't do away with abortions, because there can be abortions regardless of Roe v.
Have been getting abortions since the ancient Egypt and maybe before that. And women will, under the circumstances that they deem it necessary, continue to do that, even if it's dangerous and illegal. So I think it needs to be continue to be a safe medical procedure, and it's nobody else's business. That's what I think.
I'm just saying that when they preach abortions as killing children, that's going to happen whether there's privacy, Roe v. Wade, or whatever. Somebody's going to find a way, like they did before Roe v. Wade, to have abortion. So you may win the court, but you're not going to win the practice. And people don't understand that. They don't want to look beyond their
some people go to Queen of Peace. They have really strong religious and moral opposition to it.
Yeah.
And my comment to them, if you're still young enough to have children, just don't have one if you don't. I don't mean the child. Don't have an abortion if you don't want to. If you think it's wrong, don't have one.
Right.
And tell your family not to have one.
Your choice, your body, right?
Yeah, that's what I think.
I've got a word that keeps coming up in my brain that I just want to share. One of the biggest things I feel of the difference of the tribes, as we call them now, us included, is fear. And Trump has added so much. And the fear to me comes from certain types of people have to have guns. I'm from a different culture, as you could perhaps hear, and didn't even see a gun per se, except the farmers had them. But there's a lot of fear, and fear psychologically is our normal response actually for survival, if you ask most psychiatrists and psychologists. And so that's a real tough thing to help to change. And the only way, like Linda has pointed out before, is you actually have to be higher. You have to be the better. You the follow the golden rule. You have to be and show love when there's fear. It's the only, it sounds very spiritual, and it is maybe, but the big picture is there's so much fear. Do you see my point of what he's built up?
Yeah.
Yeah, as much as they preach,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's just a little
the opposite of it. That's what they fear. And, that goes for
underlying.
Yeah,
And
completely.
it's interesting. Fear is so selective. The point I've been making recently is that annually, give or take, there's about 17,000 violent deaths in America every year. And that is the reason that I need to carry this gun. I need to be.
My God.
So they'll spend $500, $1,000, $1,500 to have, and I'm not anti-gun, but damn it, I'm going to carry a gun anywhere I want because there's 17,000 murders a year. However, they will not put on a $2 mask for something that's already killed nearly 250,000 people, and it's not even a year yet. So again, these are just tools I try to use, is that, all right, I'll sucker you into talking about your favorite subject with me, and then let you try to bridge the logic between 17,000 a year, you're going to spend $1,000 and you're going to get all worked up all the time to have that firearm, but 250,000, and that's not worth a $2 mask to you. So
because it's their right. They're taking away their right. And basically, it's their right to choose whether to wear a mask or not. But women don't have the right to choose about their bodies.
Again, another inconsistency. That just the ongoing problem is that I can respect somebody's viewpoint if it fits consistently with all their viewpoints, but they pick and choose from such random directions, and one viewpoint doesn't support the other viewpoint, but yet they're going to be passionate about all these disconnected viewpoints. And just my opinion, I'm thinking that's one of the few tools available, is for anyone that's even got a glimmer of personal intellectual integrity, is when they're left with their own thoughts for a while, they will try to reconcile. All right, I'm willing to say that's okay, but not that. How do I make these fit? And I'm thinking that that's the only hope. Do we win back 10% of people? Do we win back 40%? I mean, the lunatic fringe used to be a fringe because there's just not everybody you can get. But are there tools? Are there ways of communicating? Are there ways of educating? Because we can't cram our viewpoints down somebody else's throat. We've just got to start finding ways of getting them to think about their viewpoints. And I guess I'm hopeful that if they do what I've done and what it sounds like you all have done, and have challenged their different views on things over the course of their lives, they start to adjust or take up positions that actually fit together and make something coherent. And also it gives them the intellectual capability to realize when a liar is talking to them.
Gary, I think it's almost impossible to change, especially if you've attained a certain age and you've got these certain viewpoints. Probably no one's going to change your mind.
Yeah, those are
right. I agree. You can't change their mind for them. How can we do better at presenting them with information? How do we do better at presenting them with information that allows them to change their minds? Because we can't change
it for them. We have to dumb it down. Let me explain. One of the things that turns our opponents off a little bit is Democrats just wax a little bit too philosophical from time to time. We often, I'm the worst, we often use too many words. And I used to tell my students, you know, here it comes, it's a 50-cent word, or it's a 75-cent word, or it's a dollar word. The point is, if we could boil it down to a couple of syllable words in 3 or 4 word bites, make the message simple. That's the thing that the Republicans have been so good at.
Yeah.
And I feel really, I feel kind of, I know there are a lot of really smart, and I know this is hard for us to believe, Republican people out there. They are a lot of smart ones, actually very smart ones. And maybe they in their search for power, they're just playing a role, or they're adopting a policy.
Absolutely. Yep.
That will get them elected. Now, I find that morally repugnant, okay, which is why I could never, ever in my entire life run for political office, because there's only so far, I don't know whether I'll go anyway beyond my personal beliefs for power. So.
Well, my hairdresser is now at a new shop, and I'm not sure what her days are now, so I have a call.
I'm going to have to drop out, folks.
You are? Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Hey, look,
Bye-bye.
I got to take off here too, and so Gary, let me just explain. I read something that was it broke it down. If you could rationalize with a Trumper, they wouldn't be Trumpers.
Oh, okay.
That's good. That's good, Gary. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad everybody was here. I've really enjoyed it. Like seeing everybody. It's great. I know this is not the same as being in you know, person. Just if you're checking your emails, just check your emails. We'll be sending out information about our January meeting. And if anything pertinent comes up between now and then, you'll see that too. And is everybody who's here with us right now, you're in our Google groups, right? You can receive the emails and you see what's coming out. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Linda.
Bye.
Good y'all guys.
Bye, Nancy.
Bye.
Here's the change.
Nice seeing you. Woohoo! We won.
We did.
We
We won. Bye.
Bye bye.
Okay. There we go.